The unexpected encounter. The vast expanse of space stretched out before Captain Sarah Chen as she guided the UES Horizon through the uncharted regions of the Orion Arm. The ship, Earth's newest and most advanced exploration vessel, hummed with quiet efficiency. Sarah's eyes flicked between the holographic displays, monitoring the myriad of systems that kept her crew of 200 alive in the vacuum of space. "Captain, we're picking up an anomalous reading," Lieutenant Raj Patel called out from his station. His fingers danced across the console, bringing up more detailed scans. I've never seen anything like this before." Sarah leaned forward, her interest piqued. "On screen, Lieutenant." The main view screen flickered to life, displaying a swirling vortex of energy that pulsed with an otherworldly light. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once, a cosmic maelstrom that defied their understanding of physics. "Analysis?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the growing unease in her stomach. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the ship's chief scientist, stepped forward, her brow furrowed as she studied the readings. "It appears to be some sort of spatial anomaly, Captain. The energy signatures are off the charts. I'd recommend we keep our distance and—" She never got to finish her sentence. The vortex suddenly expanded, tendrils of energy lashing out towards the horizon. Sarah barely had time to shout evasive maneuvers before the ship was engulfed in a blinding light. For what felt like an eternity, the crew of the Horizon experienced a sensation of falling through an endless tunnel of light and color. When it finally stopped, they found themselves in unfamiliar space, surrounded by stars they didn't recognize. "Status report," Sarah called out, her hands gripping the arms of her command chair. "All systems operational, Captain," Raj reported, his voice tinged with relief. "But we're not where we're supposed to be. None of these star patterns match our database." Before Sarah could respond, a new alert sounded. Elena's eyes widened as she looked at her console. "Captain, we're detecting multiple vessels approaching at high speed. They're not human." The bridge fell silent as the implications of Elena's words sank in. Humanity had long wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now it seemed they were about to get their answer. "Open hailing frequencies," Sarah ordered, her voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. "Let's hope they're friendly." The response came not in words, but in actions. The alien vessels, sleek and predatory in design, opened fire without warning. Energy beams lanced out, striking the Horizon's shields with devastating force. "Shields at 60% and falling," Raj shouted over the sound of alarms. "They're targeting our engines." Sarah's mind raced. They were outgunned and in unknown territory. Fighting wasn't an option, but neither was surrender. Tactical, return fire, just enough to keep them off balance. "Engineering, I need everything you've got in the engines. We're getting out of here." The Horizon shuddered as it unleashed a barrage of plasma torpedoes, not aimed to destroy but to distract. At the same time, the ship's experimental quantum drive roared to life, pushing the vessel to speeds that strained the laws of physics. For several tense minutes, it seemed as though they might escape, but the alien ships were faster, more maneuverable. They closed in relentlessly, their weapons chipping away at the Horizon's defenses. Just as all hope seemed lost, Elena called out, "Captain, I'm detecting another anomaly, similar to the one that brought us here. If we can reach it." Sarah didn't hesitate. "Helm, set course for that anomaly. Full speed." The Horizon plunged towards the swirling vortex, alien weapons fire streaking past on all sides. The ship groaned and creaked, pushed to its absolute limits. With a final burst of speed, they entered the anomaly, once again engulfed in that strange, timeless space between realities. When they emerged, they found themselves back in familiar space just outside Earth's solar system. But their relief was short-lived. The alien ships had followed them through. As they approached Earth, Sarah knew that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and their first contact had been anything but peaceful. She opened a channel to Earth's Defense Command, her voice grim but determined. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Horizon. We have made contact with a hostile alien species, and they are in pursuit. Earth is in danger. I repeat, Earth is in danger. Prepare for battle." As she signed off, Sarah looked around at her crew. They were tired, scared, but resolute. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And they would show these aliens that humanity was not to be underestimated. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of a conflict that would test the very limits of human ingenuity and determination. The battle for Earth's survival was about to begin, and the fate of their species hung in the balance. The human advantage. The skies above Earth blazed with the fury of battle. Alien ships, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly sheen, clashed with hastily assembled human defenses. The UES Horizon, battered but unbowed, hung in low orbit, its crew working feverishly to coordinate Earth's response. Captain Sarah Chen stared at the tactical display, her face illuminated by the constant flicker of weapons fire. "Status report," she demanded, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Lieutenant Raj Patel's fingers flew over his console. "Earth's orbital defenses are holding, but barely. We've lost 40% of our satellite network, and the lunar base is dark. But Captain, there's something odd about the alien attack patterns." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "They're powerful, yes, but predictable. It's like they're following a strict playbook with little adaptability. Our ships are smaller and less advanced, but we're landing hits where we shouldn't be able to." Dr. Elena Rodriguez chimed in, her eyes alight with sudden understanding. "It's their eye. Remember how their initial attack was immediate, without attempt at communication? I bet they rely heavily on artificial intelligence for combat decisions. And AI, no matter how advanced, can be predictable if you know what to look for." A plan began to form in Sarah's mind. "So if we can disrupt their AI somehow, we might stand a chance," Elena finished. Sarah nodded, a grim smile on her face. "All right, people, let's show these aliens what human ingenuity can do. Elena, I want you and your team working on a way to interfere with their AI systems. Raj, coordinate with Earth's remaining defense grid. We need to buy time." As the crews sprang into action, Sarah opened a channel to Admiral Yoshida at Earth Defense Command. "Admiral, we may have found a weakness in the alien forces. Request permission to lead a strike team to test our theory." The Admiral's holographic image flickered, his face etched with worry. "Granted, Captain, but be aware, we're detecting a massive energy buildup in the alien fleet. We think they're preparing for a final devastating attack. Whatever you're planning, do it fast." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Understood, sir. We won't let you down." Over the next few hours, the battle raged on. Human ships darted and weaved between the larger alien vessels, exploiting gaps in their defenses that shouldn't have existed. Elena and her team worked tirelessly, analyzing every scrap of data from the ongoing fight. Finally, Elena burst onto the bridge, her eyes wild with excitement. "We've done it. We've cracked their communication protocols. It's not much, but we should be able to broadcast a signal that will introduce a subtle error into their targeting systems." Sarah didn't hesitate. "Do it. All ships, this is Captain Chen. Prepare for Operation Wildcard. On my mark, execute evasive pattern Theta 9. As Elena's signal pulsed out from the horizon, the effect was almost immediate. The alien ship's precise formations began to waver. Their shots, once unerringly accurate, started to miss more often than not. "It's working," Rad shouted, unable to contain his excitement. "Their hit rate has dropped by 60%. Sarah allowed herself a moment of triumph before focusing on the next phase. All ships press the advantage. Concentrate fire on their flagship. The battle shifted dramatically. Human vessels, emboldened by their sudden advantage, struck hard and fast. The alien flagship, a behemoth that dwarfed even the largest Earth ships, found itself surrounded and under heavy fire. But the aliens weren't defeated yet. As if sensing their impending doom, they launched a desperate, all-out assault. Energy beams of devastating power lanced out, cutting through Earth's defenses like they were paper. They're targeting major population centers. Raj called out, his voice tight with fear. Sarah's mind raced. They were so close to victory, but at what cost? Then an idea struck her. A crazy, possibly suicidal idea, but one that might just save Earth. Helm, set a collision course for the alien flagship, she ordered, her voice calm despite the gravity of her words. All hands, prepare for emergency teleport on my mark. The crew looked at her in shock, but no one questioned the order. The horizon surged forward, its engines pushed beyond their limits. The alien flagship loomed larger and larger in their view screen. Captain, Elena said softly, the Horizon's teleportation system was never designed for this many people at once. There's no guarantee we'll all make it. Sarah met her gaze steadily. I know, but it's our best chance to save Earth. It's been an honor serving with all of you. As the distance closed, Sarah took one last look at her crew, brave men and women who had followed her into the unknown, and now stood ready to make the ultimate sacrifice. For Earth, she said quietly. Then, louder, initiate teleport. All ships, fall back and prepare for shockwave. The world dissolved into blue light as the teleportation beam engaged. At the same moment, the Horizon, loaded with every ounce of explosive power it could muster, slammed into the alien flagship. The resulting explosion was visible from the surface of Earth, a new star briefly blazing in the sky. The shockwave rippled out, catching many of the alien ships unprepared. In the chaos that followed, Earth's forces pressed their advantage, turning the tide of the battle decisively. Hours later, as the last alien ship retreated or was destroyed, Sarah found herself in a crowded medical bay, surrounded by her battered but alive crew. They had lost the Horizon, but they had saved Earth. As reports came in from around the world, a new reality began to sink in. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. But this was just the beginning. The aliens would likely return, and Earth needed to be ready. Sarah looked out at the stars, visible through a small porthole. The universe had suddenly become a much larger, more dangerous place, but she knew that humanity would rise to the challenge. They had proven their worth today, and they would do so again. As if reading her thoughts, Elena spoke up. So, what's next, Captain? Sarah turned to her crew, a determined smile on her face. Next, we prepare, we learn, and we show the galaxy that humanity is a force to be reckoned with. The seeds of a new era had been planted. Humanity, once confined to a single world, was about to take its first steps onto the galactic stage, and they would do so not as victims or underdogs, but as victors, ready to shape their own destiny among the stars. As the distance closed, Sarah took one last look at her crew, brave men and women who had followed her into the unknown, and now stood ready to make the ultimate sacrifice. For Earth, she said quietly. Then, louder, initiate teleport. All ships, fall back and prepare for shockwave. The world dissolved into blue light as the teleportation beam engaged. At the same moment, the Horizon, loaded with every ounce of explosive power it could muster, slammed into the alien flagship. The resulting explosion was visible from the surface of Earth, a new star briefly blazing in the sky. The shockwave rippled out, catching many of the alien ships unprepared. In the chaos that followed, Earth's forces pressed their advantage, turning the tide of the battle decisively. Hours later, as the last alien ship retreated or was destroyed, Sarah found herself in a crowded medical bay, surrounded by her battered but alive crew. They had lost the Horizon, but they had saved Earth. As reports came in from around the world, a new reality began to sink in. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. But this was just the beginning. The aliens would likely return, and Earth needed to be ready. Sarah looked out at the stars, visible through a small porthole. The universe had suddenly become a much larger, more dangerous place, but she knew that humanity would rise to the challenge. They had proven their worth today, and they would do so again. As if reading her thoughts, Alina spoke up. "So, what's next, Captain?" Sarah turned to her crew, a determined smile on her face. "Next, we prepare, we learn, and we show the galaxy that humanity is a force to be reckoned with." The seeds of a new era had been planted. Humanity, once confined to a single world, was about to take its first steps onto the galactic stage. And they would do so not as victims or underdogs, but as victors, ready to shape their own destiny among the stars. "We'll need to discuss this with our government," Sarah said carefully. "But speaking personally, I believe this alliance is not just necessary, but vital for our survival." The meeting continued for hours, hammering out the details of the proposed alliance. As the alien delegates filed out, Sarah felt a mix of hope and trepidation. Earth was about to step onto an even larger stage, with stakes higher than they had ever imagined. Weeks passed in a flurry of activity. Earth's industries, already ramped up for defense, now worked overtime to integrate alien technology with human innovation. New ships were built, combining the best of both worlds. Soldiers and scientists trained together, learning to work alongside their new alien allies. But as the alliance grew stronger, so did the shadows of doubt. Reports came in of Krelax attacks growing bolder, striking closer to core worlds. Rumors spread of betrayals and hidden agendas within the Galactic Council itself. It all came to a head on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Sarah was in a strategy meeting when the alarms blared. Unidentified ships entering the system. Raj's voice came over the comm. "They've bypassed our early warning systems." Sarah raced to the command center, her mind already racing through possible scenarios. But nothing could have prepared her for what she saw on the main view screen. A massive fleet hung in space above Earth. But it wasn't the Krelax. It was a mix of ships from various council races, their weapons primed and ready. "We're receiving a transmission," Raj said, his voice tight with tension. The screen flickered, and Sarah found herself face to face with Ambassador Zorn. But gone was the friendly demeanor, replaced by cold determination. "Admiral Chen," Zorn said, his voice devoid of its usual melody. "I'm afraid we've reached an impasse. The Council has decided that Earth poses too great a risk to be allowed to remain independent. Your technology, your potential, it's simply too dangerous. We cannot allow another Krelax to rise." Sarah's blood ran cold. "You're here to conquer us. After everything we've done, everything we've shared." Zorn's expression softened slightly. "Not conquer, Admiral. Protect. Both you and ourselves. Surrender now, and we promise fair treatment. Resist, and..." He trailed off, the threat clear. For a moment, Sarah was transported back to that day 5 years ago, facing down the Krelax fleet. But this time, the odds were even worse. Their supposed allies had turned against them, using the very defenses Earth had shared to bypass their security. But as she looked around at her team, at the determined faces of humanity's best and brightest, Sarah felt a familiar fire ignite within her. They had beaten the odds before. They would do so again. "I'm sorry you feel that way, Ambassador," Sarah said, her voice steady. "But if there's one thing you should have learned about humanity by now, it's this: we don't surrender." With a nod to Raj, she cut the transmission. The room erupted into action, orders flying as Earth prepared for its second great battle in half a decade. As the first shots were fired, lighting up the sky with deadly beauty, Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. The aliens thought they knew humanity's potential. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The battle for Earth's future had begun anew, and this time, the very fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The battle for Earth. The skies above Earth blazed with the fury of betrayal. What should have been a coalition of allies had become a storm of destruction, raining death upon the planet they had sworn to protect. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the heart of Earth's Defense Command, her face illuminated by the constant flicker of tactical displays. "Status report," she barked, her eyes never leaving the holographic representation of the battle raging above. Lieutenant Commander Raj Patel, his uniform disheveled but his voice steady, responded, "The outer defense grid is holding at 60% capacity. We've lost contact with Lunar Base, but the Mars colony is still online and lending support. Civilian evacuations to the underground shelters are at 85%. Sarah nodded grimly. They had prepared for another attack. But not like this. Not from those they had called friends. And our special projects. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stepped forward, dark circles under her eyes betraying sleepless nights of preparation. "Project Phoenix is ready, Admiral. But are you sure about this? Once we activate it, there's no going back." Sarah's jaw tightened. Project Phoenix was their ace in the hole, a desperate gambit born from the fusion of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered alien tech. It was untested, dangerous, and possibly their only hope. "We're out of options, Elena. Zorn and his coalition have made their choice. Now we make ours." As if on cue, the command center shook violently. Alarms blared as new data flooded the screens. "They've broken through the outer defenses," Raj shouted over the din. "Ground forces are deploying in major cities worldwide." Sarah's mind raced. They needed more time. "Activate all reserve units. I want every ship we have in the air, every soldier on the ground. We hold the line, no matter the cost." As her orders were relayed across the globe, Sarah turned to Elena. "How long do you need?" Elena's fingers flew over her tablet, running last-minute calculations. 30 minutes to bring the system fully online. Maybe less if we... Another explosion rocked the facility, closer this time. The lights flickered ominously. "You have 15, Sarah said, her tone brooking no argument. "Raj, you're with me. We're going topside." Minutes later, Sarah emerged onto the chaotic streets of Washington, D.C. The once proud capital was now a war zone. Sleek alien dropships darted between buildings, deploying troops that were a nightmarish fusion of biology and technology. Against them stood Earth's defenders, a patchwork force of military personnel and hastily armed civilians. Sarah and Raj fought their way to a nearby command post, rallying troops and coordinating defenses. Every second they bought was another second for Elena to bring Project Phoenix online. As she fired her pulse rifle at an approaching alien squad, Sarah couldn't help but feel a pang of bitter irony. The weapon in her hands, like so much of their current tech, had been a gift from their now enemies. A gift they had improved upon, as humans always did. "Admiral," Raj called out, pointing to the sky. "Look." Sarah's heart sank as she saw a massive ship descending through the clouds. Unlike the others, this one was clearly a command vessel, and at its head, Zorn, Sarah growled. The alien ambassador's face appeared on every screen and holographic display in the city, his once melodious voice now grated on Sarah's ears. "People of Earth," Zorn began, his tone maddeningly calm. "Your resistance, while admirable, is futile. We have no desire to destroy you. Surrender now, and we promise to treat your world with care and respect. Continue to fight, and we will have no choice but to." Suddenly, Zorn's image flickered and disappeared, replaced by Elena's determined face. "Sorry to cut in on your monologue, you backstabbing squid," Elena said, a fierce grin on her face. "But we've got a little surprise for you, Admiral. We're ready. On your command." Sarah felt a surge of pride for her friend and colleague. Turning to Raj, she said, "Send the signal. All Earth forces, initiate Protocol Lazarus. Fall back to defensive positions and prepare for possible shockwave." As their troops began a strategic retreat, sowing confusion among the alien forces, Sarah took one last look at the sky. The enemy fleet hung there, a sword of Damocles over her world. But not for long. "Elena," she said into her comm, "light it up." For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a low hum began to build, felt more than heard. It grew in intensity, causing the very air to vibrate. Across the globe, hidden emitters buried deep in the Earth's crust activated, creating a web of energy that enveloped the entire planet. In space, the alien fleet suddenly found themselves unable to maneuver, caught in an artificial gravity well of immense power. Their weapons flickered and died as the energy field disrupted their systems. But Project Phoenix was more than just a defensive measure. As the hum reached a fever pitch, bolts of concentrated energy burst from the emitters, lancing into space. Each bolt struck with pinpoint accuracy, targeting the weak points of the alien ships that Earth had so carefully studied and prepared for. The night sky lit up with explosions as ship after ship succumbed to the onslaught. Those that survived found themselves powerless, drifting helplessly in orbit. On the ground, the effect was just as dramatic. Alien troops collapsed as their cybernetic enhancements failed, their weapons reduced to useless hunks of metal. As quickly as it had begun, it was over. An eerie silence fell over the battlefield, broken only by the sound of debris raining down from the decimated fleet above. Sarah stood in awe of what they had accomplished. Project Phoenix, a combination of gravitational manipulation, EMP technology, and targeted energy weapons, had done the impossible. They had defeated a technologically superior force with a single, decisive stroke. But there was no time to celebrate. As reports flooded in from around the world, confirming their victory, Sarah's mind was already racing ahead. This battle was won, but the war was far from over. "Raj," she said, her voice filled with grim determination, "get me a secure line to any surviving alien ship. It's time we had a chat with our old friend Zorn." As Raj worked to establish communication, Sarah looked out over the battered but unbroken city. Humanity had faced extinction twice now, and twice they had emerged victorious. But she knew the galaxy would never be the same. Earth could no longer hide or play the part of a junior partner in galactic affairs. It was time for humanity to take its place among the stars, not as conquerors or victims, but as a force for change, a force that would reshape the very foundations of the galactic order. The final battle was yet to come, and Sarah Chen intended to make sure that this time it would be on humanity's terms. A new era begins. The dust had barely settled on Earth's latest victory when Admiral Sarah Chen found herself standing before the hastily assembled Emergency Galactic Council. The Grand Chamber, located on a neutral space station at the edge of contested space, buzzed with tension. Representatives from dozens of species filled the room, their expressions ranging from awe to fear to barely concealed hostility. At the center of it all stood Zorn, the once proud ambassador, now a prisoner of war. His iridescent skin had lost its luster, his forearms bound by energy cuffs. Yet even in defeat, he managed to maintain an air of dignity. Sarah stepped forward, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Members of the Galactic Council, I stand before you not as a conqueror, but as a representative of a species that has, twice now, faced extinction at the hands of those who claim to be our superiors." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We did not ask for these wars. We did not seek to prove our worth through violence. All we ever wanted was to explore the stars, to learn, to grow, to contribute to this grand tapestry of galactic civilization. Instead, we were met with fear, betrayal, and aggression." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Sarah could see some nodding in agreement, others shifting uncomfortably. "But make no mistake," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "We are not here to exact revenge. We are not here to subjugate or dominate. We are here to propose a new way forward." With a nod to Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who stood at a control panel nearby, a holographic display sprang to life in the center of the chamber. It showed the schematics for Project Phoenix, but with significant modifications. "What you see before you is the technology that allowed us to defeat a fleet that by all rights should have annihilated us. But we've adapted it, improved it. This version isn't a weapon, it's a shield." The hologram shifted, showing the device enveloping entire planets, star systems, even whole sectors of space. We propose to share this technology with every member of the Galactic Council. No more will developing worlds need to fear invasion or exploitation. No more will established powers need to worry about upstart species upsetting the balance. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices. Some were shouting accusations, others pleading for immediate access to the technology. Through it all, Sarah stood firm, waiting for the noise to die down. When silence finally fell, it was Zorn who broke it. "And what guarantee do we have," he asked, his melodious voice tinged with bitterness, "that Earth won't use this technology to establish its own dominion over the galaxy?" Sarah turned to face him, her expression softening slightly. "A fair question, Ambassador. And the answer is simple. We will teach you how to build it yourselves." This pronouncement sent another shockwave through the assembly. Sarah pressed on. "Every member world will have the means to create and control their own defensive grid. We'll establish a new galactic defense network, jointly operated and maintained by all. This isn't about creating a new superpower. It's about leveling the playing field." As the implications of her words sank in, Sarah could see the shift in the room. Fear was giving way to hope, suspicion to cautious optimism. One by one, representatives stood to voice their support. Even those who had been part of the coalition against Earth saw the wisdom in this new approach. The galaxy had been locked in cycles of conflict and conquest for too long. Perhaps this was the key to lasting peace. Hours of debate and negotiation followed. By the time the session adjourned, the foundations of a new galactic order had been laid. Earth would take its place as a full member of the Galactic Council, with Sarah as its first official representative. As the chamber emptied, Sarah found herself face to face with Zorn. His bonds had been removed, a sign of the rapidly changing political landscape. "I underestimated your species, Admiral Chen," Zorn said, his voice heavy with regret. "We all did. I thought I was protecting the galaxy from a potential threat. Instead, I may have inadvertently pushed humanity to become its savior." Sarah regarded him thoughtfully. "We're not saviors, Zorn. We're just survivors who learned some hard lessons. The real test comes now, in peace." Zorn nodded slowly. "Indeed. And I hope that one day you might find it in your heart to forgive an old fool who let fear cloud his judgment." "Forgiveness might take time," Sarah replied, "but understanding. That we can work on starting today." As they parted ways, Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Earth's journey among the stars was just beginning, and the path ahead was far from certain. But for the first time since humanity had looked up at the night sky and dreamed, they were truly ready to take their place in the cosmos. She made her way to the observation deck, where Elena and Raj were waiting. Together, they looked out at the star-studded expanse before them. "So," Raj said, breaking the comfortable silence, "what's next, Admiral?" Sarah smiled, her eyes fixed on the distant pinpricks of light. Each one a potential new world, new civilization, new challenge to overcome. "Next," she mused, "we explore, we learn, we grow, and we make damn sure that the next time humanity faces a crisis, we're not just ready to survive it, we're ready to solve it, for everyone." As their ship detached from the station, setting course for Earth, Sarah felt a surge of pride and anticipation. Humanity had proven its worth not through conquest, but through innovation and determination. They had faced the ultimate tests and emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would they. As Earth grew larger in their view screen, Sarah Chen, once a captain of a single ship, now a leader of her species and an architect of galactic peace, allowed herself a moment of reflection. The journey had been hard, the costs high. But as she looked at her team, at the planet they had saved twice over, and at the stars that now promised partnership instead of peril, she knew one thing for certain. Humanity's greatest adventures were just beginning.